So the Africa Continental Free Trade Area has just been ratified May 2019. So we are at the beginning of the process, the real process of implementing it. And I keep referencing the East African community, but it is the most integrated regional economic bloc in the African continent. Studies have shown that, in fact. We did, TradeMark East Africa just conducted a study with the United Nations Economic Commission on Africa, which indicated that if Eastern Africa, that includes East Africa and the Horn of Africa, were to remove the tariffs as far as recommended by the Continental Free Trade Area, would see an increase in welfare gains of over $1.8 billion. And they would see an increase in trade in that particular region of over $1.1 billion. And the big result also is we would see an increase in jobs of over 2 million jobs would be created in this area. So there is huge impetus that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area should be implemented so that there is actually free movement of people and goods. Discussions are taking place. There is a trilateral free trade area that is already being discussed. It was already being discussed by, and this is East African Community, SADC, and COMESA, the three major blocs, are already in discussions and they are talking. But the implementation is a process. In terms of realizing these gains, that potential gains of intra-Africa trade that I've just mentioned, there are first steps, first principles that have to be dealt with. That is, the first one being the rules of origin. So what determines that a product is in fact a local product in a region that is manufactured there? Because if that idea is agreed, then you will see products produced within the Africa continent easily bought and sold across the continent. But so discussions have already begun since the ratification of the Continental Free Trade Area. They are taking place, and it is expected that if the issue of the rules of origin is prioritized, then it will ease the movement of goods. So signing and ratifying the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, it required a lot of negotiations, bilateral agreements, and involvement of the entire continent. So to some extent, I would say that they do, because we've gotten to this point actually where we have on paper a framework within which we can actually trade on the African continent. I think, of course, implementation is going to be a big problem because it's where the heavy lifting actually happens. And therefore, I think countries could and maybe should conduct capacity assessments to figure out, do we have the capacity to actually implement this entire framework as it is? What are the country's comparative advantages? Where do we have the gaps? What is a priority to us right now? And in which sectors do we need to push the most, even as a regional bloc? So I think countries should definitely conduct such assessments to equip themselves sufficiently so that they can implement this quickly and realize the benefits.